Hello, friends, and welcome back to Stories About Entitled People. Let's start with a story about a townhouse nightmare, a shared yard, chaotic dogs, and a neighbor named Bill who's the definition of a problem. He's the guy who lets his massive Rottweilers run wild, hurls insults at his own family, and has somehow dodged eviction despite endless complaints. But before we begin, best way to support our channel is to leave comments, like, and subscribe with the turned-on bell so you don't miss the new video every single day. Here we go. After years of chaos, my trashy neighbor finally paid the price for his negligence. My neighbors, and I say that in quotes because we're not directly neighbors but live in the same townhouse complex, are nightmare human beings. Specifically the father. Let's call him Bill. Little bit of backstory here. We all live in a townhouse complex with a shared yard. Bill's a major alcoholic, and his family has playground equipment and garbage taking up the majority of the yard. Of the 11 units sharing this particular green patch, literally nobody uses it because these people are such nightmares. Bill lives with his deaf wife, their 2 toddler sons, and a 14-year-old daughter he has from a previous marriage. Bill's an absolute garbage human being. He's called his wife the R-word to my face multiple times with her standing beside him. He once explained to me, "I'm not racist, I just don't want my daughter hanging out with black people." And I once heard him screaming at her in the yard, "I don't care if your friends are gay, I don't want them in my effing house." Bill also has a foot fetish and has approached me inappropriately many times over the years. So, my complex allows dogs. Bill's the definition of an irresponsible pet owner. There's no fencing around our units, and he has 2 big Rottweilers. He just opens the door and lets them run wild. They've chased my car before, I've seen them jump on multiple people. They never clean up their dog crap. They've had dozens of eviction notices just based on their dogs alone. Our landlords suck, though, and just refuse to actually follow through with eviction. 2 weeks ago, one of Bill's dogs, obviously unsupervised, followed me to my front door and jumped on me. I have 4 large scratches down my leg, 2 of which drew blood. They're big, ugly, scabbed bruises now, and I swore this was my last straw. It's not the dog's fault, so I don't want to go to the police because where I live, that would result in euthanasia. As my fiancé and I are discussing how to deal with this, I see flashing lights in the backyard. It's an ambulance. Lo and behold, one of his dogs jumped on him. He fell back and landed on one of their decrepit pieces of playground equipment. Bill landed on his spine and was immediately unable to use his arms and legs. Paralyzed from the neck down, basically. From what I've heard, he got spinal surgery and is now recovering well. I'm grateful for that because even though he's an absolute scuzzball, his wife is surprisingly decent and he needs his hands for ASL. Either way, he now has a taste of his own medicine. They've hired someone to train the dogs, and if that doesn't work, I have more than enough evidence between text messages and photos of my own injuries on top of his own hospitalization to make an eviction order finally stick. F you, Bill. Your wife and kids deserve better, you absolute POS. I feel so bad for that wife. I guarantee you she knows exactly how bad he is without needing to be told. It's probably worse behind closed doors. If he feels comfortable doing that in front of everyone, imagine the things he does that he's not comfortable with other people seeing. And our second story. After over 5 years in retail, I finally cried at work. I work at a big retail store and got the job almost 10 months ago now. I really like it compared to all the previous jobs I've had, mainly because it's focused around a hobby I enjoy. Of course, I get the usual a-hole, but I just laugh about it and move on. After so many years, your skin gets thicker and your shift ends, you go home. However, today was something. 45 minutes before my shift ended, I began putting stuff away and cleaning up. By the way I dressed, it's extremely clear that I'm employed there. I had my headset on that has a visible wire across my chest, a lanyard with a portable phones attached, my name tag, etc. A regular comes up next to me, older woman who I've had interactions with before. Not necessarily pleasant, but nothing terrible and usually brief. She loudly starts complaining about how awful the store is due to us changing the layout. Over a year ago, before I even started working there. "This store just sucks now, doesn't it? I can't ever find things now since they've moved everything." Like, look at this. It just looks awful. Takes a good look at me and then says, "Oh, you work here?" I know for a fact she knew I was an employee and just wanted to get a rise out of me by complaining about the store. Out of all the customers around us, she picked me to complain to while I was visibly working in my uniform? Obviously, I wasn't hurt by her comment, not my company, and I don't get paid enough to care. I said yes, I do work here, and I apologized to her that she feels like she can never find anything. Before I could offer to help her, she rudely asks how long I've been at the store. I told her 10 months, and she just starts complaining about the store again, mostly to herself, but directing her complaints towards me. I tell her I can look up whatever she needs. She ignores me, still complaining about how she cannot find a specific item. I can't pull the item out of my butt, and I had no clue what exactly she wanted, so I told her, come over to the desk so I can look it up. I didn't say it with a tone, I was polite, and the customer service desk was not even 8 feet away from the spot we were standing at. She stepped back and had a shocked look on her face. "You better find someone else to help me because I don't like your attitude. You're very rude. Like, who do you think you are, telling me to come over to the desk? Why do I have to come to you?" She then laughs to herself out of disgust. I said, "Okay," and removed myself from her sight. I was genuinely so confused because I couldn't have handled that situation differently. I don't like confrontation, so I didn't approach her rudely or act like I didn't want to help her. It was awkward because so many people started staring. I asked over the headset for someone else to help her and walked upstairs. While I was there, I noticed she was with someone from the receiving room who walks her over to the upstairs customer service desk, and they look up what she needs together. I was just in disbelief and felt incompetent. What was so wrong with me, and why was what he was doing different than what I offered? I went into the break room so she wouldn't see me and told my managers about what happened. I started crying as soon as they asked me if I was all right. Customers have screamed in my face, threatened to call the police on me, licked money during the height of the pandemic and slammed it into my hand, you name it. But this one interaction sent me over the edge. I don't even know why. Apparently, the woman has had the cops called on her in the past for starting a fight with another customer. I know I'm not alone in this feeling, and she's definitely just a miserable person. I feel embarrassed for crying and letting my managers see me visibly upset, but I couldn't control it. She sounds like she has psychological issues. And no, she really doesn't want help. She wants to stew in her own fetid juices. Some people are so miserable that they just want to spread it wherever they go. You just happen to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. And our last story. Towed 3 cars from my garage, and now I'm the villain of the neighborhood. My new house is still under construction, but it's mostly done on the outside and the interior's coming along. It's one of the last remaining lots in a neighborhood that's already well established. The contractors are working on the drywall now, and I like to stop by after work to check on the progress. One evening, everything looked fine until I opened the door to my garage. There they were, 2 cars and a minivan sitting comfortably inside my garage. I had to blink a couple of times to make sure I wasn't hallucinating. Nope, there they were, 3 vehicles parked as if they owned the place. I called my contractor to see if this was some bizarre construction-related thing I didn't know about, but he was just as baffled as I was. That's when it hit me. One of my soon-to-be neighbors must have decided my garage was a convenient, free parking spot for their cars because there'd been a chance of hail that night. The audacity of it all started to sink in. My first thought was to let it go, but the more I thought about it, the angrier I got. This wasn't just some random oversight, this was a violation of my property. By the time I walked back to my car, I was done being reasonable. I called the tow company and had all 3 vehicles hauled off. I made sure to document everything, photos of the cars in my garage, the tow truck showing up, the works. The next morning, my contractor called me, sounding both amused and concerned. Apparently, the police were at the house investigating the theft of 3 vehicles. I asked to speak with the officers and explained the situation, making it clear that I was the property owner and had every right to have unauthorized vehicles towed from my garage. I even gave them the tow company's contact information for good measure. Later, my contractor told me the vehicle owners had shown up and lost it. They were yelling and cursing, throwing a full-blown tantrum until the police finally told them to leave. That evening, I decided to stop by the house again, and one of the car owners was waiting for me. The moment he saw me, he stormed over, red-faced and shouting about how I had ruined his day. He claimed I made him and his wife miss work. His kids were late to school, and it cost them almost $1,000 to get their vehicles back. Then, with a straight face, he told me I should cover the towing fees. I stared at him, dumbfounded, before replying, "Good luck with that, buddy. You parked in my garage without permission, and you're mad at me?" He doubled down, calling me every name in the book until his wife finally came out to drag him away. Of course, the commotion attracted a small audience. A few of the other neighbors came over, and instead of backing me up, they started criticizing me. One told me I was starting off on the wrong foot and that I should apologize to the guy. Another said I should have left a note instead of having the cars towed and that I should have been more neighborly. They actually had the nerve to suggest I should have just let it slide because neighbors help each other out. I couldn't believe it. How is parking in someone else's garage without permission neighborly? I just moved here, and instead of welcoming me, they're siding with the entitled guy who treated my garage like his personal parking space? At this point, I'm questioning whether I've moved into a neighborhood or some alternate reality where trespassing and entitlement are considered virtues. If this is the kind of energy I'm going to be dealing with, it's going to be a long road ahead. But one thing's for sure, I'm not backing down, and if they try something like this again, I'll be calling the tow company faster than they can say, "But it's just one night." You're absolutely right. It's frustrating how entitled some people can be, assuming they can just use someone else's property without asking, especially when the house isn't even finished yet. Imagine the mess if the contractor had shown up the next day to find their vehicle still in the garage or if they'd caused damage. It's a huge inconvenience and could have cost money to fix, with no guarantees they would have taken responsibility for it. You did the right thing by taking action. It's not about starting off on the wrong foot. It's about setting boundaries and ensuring people respect your space. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.